Pledge of Allegiance.
Just one announcement this evening, Resolution R 122, 2019 has been pulled from the agenda for additional discussion and consideration by administration.
Which one was that?
122, I took it off.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
There are 6 items on the consent agenda. Unless a member of council would like to remove one or more for separate consideration, I would ask for a motion to improve the consent agenda.
I will abstain on number 1. I wasn't here on July 16.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move it. Second.
Okay. Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
And Council President Foster?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, at this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. If there are any members of the public wishing to be heard, please come before us, state your name, address for the record, and try to keep your comments to less than 5 minutes. I'm going to go from front to back, so I'll start on my left. Linda?
Hello, I'm Linda Carrington, 49 McCulloch Avenue. And I'm here and I want to preface my remarks by saying I talked with our Director of Public Safety yesterday. I was concerned in reading about the power outage yesterday on Morris Street at the corner of Lafayette. This was an underground explosion, perhaps, a manhole cover and fireballs. According to a report, a video that I had seen on Instagram, and do you believe Instagram? But this person said she was on Morris Street and she took a video of it and she saw fireballs. So we haven't read anything about this, so that was yesterday. And I started looking at other incidents of power outages caused by underground explosions. There was one reported on February 8th of this year. That had a follow-up on the policeman who was recovering from the traffic injury. If you recall, there was a power outage on South Street at Madison Avenue, and I think it happened twice. Okay, so also January 11th, near the intersection of South and Madison, so that's the other one, January and February in the same location. Then I did this internet search, so there's a big gap. The previous one I have is July 31st, 2013, a smoky manhole near the Morristown train station. On the Morris Street sidewalk near Elm Street. JCP&L says no explosion. What dislodged a manhole cover? That's August 16th, 2012, and that was downtown Morristown. Does it say where? I didn't copy that. Another manhole cover blows a woman injured. This was in August 31st, 2011. We all might be aware of this. It was after a hurricane, and 2 people were driving over the manhole cover on South Street and James Street, and both of them were burned, one severely, and they ended up going before the Board of Public Utilities in 2012. So I brought just the cover pages of that, the matter of the board's investigation into the reliability issues related to Jersey Central Power and Light Company's Morristown Underground Distribution System. So this is the follow-up report. It's 36 pages. I didn't copy it all. And it started in September 2011. I think they started looking at this. So I'm going to give this to you, the clerk. June 11th, Morristown transformer fire caused by heat beneath South Street. A broken wire, February 25th, 2011. An explosive sound and steam emanated from Morristown utility vault on Thursday was caused by a broken wire. And then May 3rd, 2010, the mayor says, enough is enough. Emergency crews investigate South Street incident. involved a fault with an underground line serving the Morristown Library and St. Peter's Episcopal Church. And prior to that, in February, 2 manhole covers blew into the air on Miller Road between the library and the church, the same location. And other cable faults occurred December 20th, 2009 on Washington Street near the Morris County Courthouse and January 1st at a substation on Ridgedale Avenue. And there was one point where, I think it was this last one in 2009, all the restaurants were closed for several days, all the food spoiled, we didn't know what to do. So I'm just asking, has anyone, first of all, heard yesterday whether or not there were fireballs? And secondly, what is the development going to do that's proposed right on Morris Street, just in front of this location? So I don't think you'll have an answer right now, so for me, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard?
Karen Keene, Oliphant Park. I don't know if I'm allowed to speak now, or I have to wait to the introduction of an ordinance to speak. What's the proper forum?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
This is the public hearing, so you can speak
Say
about.
anything, okay. You're going to attempt to adopt an ordinance tonight.
I'm sorry, what is your address?
Oliphant Park. To adopt an ordinance 028-2019 regarding attic and basement things. I read it over, and on page 2, they talk about section 13-46F2, which I can't find. Doesn't seem to exist in the code. Also, it seems like it's a two-pronged thing. One is for people buying houses now and going and renovating them and perhaps not getting all the proper permits. They'll add a bathroom or change the configuration, have a second bedroom or something. Then you have the exceptions and pre-existing on page 3. And this is where there could be some trouble, especially in the second and third wards, because the housing is basically, a lot of it's 100-plus years old. And things were done the 30s, the 40s, and probably through to the 70s, where people finished off or utilized their third floors for sleeping purposes, renting out rooms. And the problem is the proof is going to be difficult because the building records have been destroyed. There was a flood over at what is Jockey Hollow 110. The records were in the basement, and they got thrown out. Then you have the tax assessment. It's crazy. The tax assessments are not accurate for a lot of the homes in the town. They'll say people have bedrooms and a bath on the third floor, and they show nothing. Okay, and then I think that covers it. Oh, and of course that thing about the fire escapes, that 13-46F2 doesn't seem to be around. I couldn't find it on your new codification. So perhaps maybe this should be tabled for further review, which I suggest. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to be heard?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Phil Rosenbach. I'm a member of a law firm which is on 10 Madison Avenue, just not even a stone's throw from here. I'm here with another attorney, Linda Kahn. You could say Linda is my co-counsel, or I am her co-counsel. I don't care which way you put it. We both represent the entities that are the owners of most of the properties that are in Phase 3 of your Speedwell redevelopment zone. I assume that you are all aware that several days ago, we emailed to you a package of materials. We have emailed this package of materials to you, and I'll get to it in a moment, because going back now pretty much 5 years, when our client entered into a settlement of litigation with the town of Morristown and with the Morristown Parking Authority, that at the time we believed gave our client very strong rights to develop Phase 3 in a particular way, and our client promptly started to do exactly that. And what has been happening since 2015 is that one incident after another, after another, after another, in which our client has hired world-class architects and engineers to present plans that will redevelop Phase 3, enhance this town, beautify this town. It has been one niggling cut after another, one rejection after another, and it has been unending. And aside from that, to add insult to those injuries, part of the 2015 settlement had called for our client to give way with a temporary pedestrian easement running from Speedwell Avenue to the Phase 2 development, which our client did. And after that easement was, let's say, more effectuated, and our client lost all rights to that easement area, that is when the town, in its infinite wisdom, decided to start barraging our client with summonses for failing to maintain garbage control. That led me to send a letter to the town in January 2019, essentially saying, why are you doing this? Because with this easement, it's the Phase 2 developer that's in charge of maintenance, and you, town, have the right to be compelling the Phase 2 developer to fix it. If I will tell you I got one word in response, it would be a lie, because the town never responded in any way to this letter. So here we are now, mid-2019. Our client has been completely unsuccessful in terms of proceeding with Phase 3. Its ability to develop Phase 3 keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and that every time what appears to be an acceptable plan is presented, not only does it get nibbled to death, but we are then told that, no, you can't have 100 units, you can't have 80 units, you can't have 60 units. It's working its way down to 0. It's not acceptable. We have already served you with a tort claims notice, and we're serious about it. We have already sent you courtesy copies of a complaint that we intend to file in federal court if we have to. But the key phrase here is if we have to. Our client has not spent 4 years hiring engineers and presenting plans in order to have litigation with the town. Our client has done all that work in order to develop Phase 3. That's all we want. And what we have sent you to try to make this task as simple as possible is information about what we would like to do in terms of Phase 3. We have sent you plans. We have sent you information about the company Claremont Developers we have tried to partner with. We have done all this so that you can just look at it and you can say, yes, we would like to work with you, instead of effectively making this Phase 3 area useless and at the same time effectively condemning the easement area for which we paid good money and for which we are getting 0 value. So we came tonight not to threaten, not to do anything like that, but just so that it is clear that for those of you on the town council who perhaps somehow don't know this is going on, haven't heard of us, you're all aware. You're aware that we're trying to work with you. You're aware that we have sent you materials. And we would like to make this work for our benefit and your benefit. I don't think Mr. Pawar would allow any of you to comment to me. I don't think you would, if I may put words in your mouth, so I don't expect it. But we would like to know that we have been heard. We would like to know in fairly short order that the town is willing to work with us, because it leaves a somewhat bitter taste in the mouth to say that we have wasted 4 years for nothing and just have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for nothing, and it's not going to continue.
Are we,
Just add a few words if I could.
well, are you speaking together?
Yes, we are.
Co-counsel.
Yeah.
Right, so
Let me
then you
just-
have to state your name and address for the
I
record.
will. My name is Linda Kahn, and I'm co-counsel. I also represent the Speedwell entities.
Are you going to add something different?
I'm going to add something different, correct. So let me just explain one final matter so that it's very clear. In the normal course of business, to spend 2 or 3 years developing plans to wait to see if the town planner and the mayor will approve them, one wouldn't bat an eye. That happens all the time. In this instance, it couldn't happen. And the reason it couldn't happen is because Morristown entered into an agreement with our client in January 2015. And the language of the agreement was very clear. The reason the agreement was entered into was because our client had the right to hold for 99 years an interest in Phase 2 property that Morristown wanted to be able to develop. So our client agreed to relinquish that 99-year leasehold interest in exchange for getting certain obligations executed by Morristown. The obligations included the following. I'm going to read the language of the contract to you that Morristown executed. Mayor Dougherty executed this language. Here was the language. Morristown agreed to, quote, immediately, continuously, timely without unreasonable delay, diligently work in good faith with our client to allow our client to submit a plan and get it approved and work with the town council to enter into a redevelopment plan. Okay, the language was immediately in January 2015, immediately in January 2015, not 4.5 years later, not niggling, hacking away, making requests for changes, et cetera, immediately, continuously, timely without unreasonable delay, diligently work with our client to enter into an amendment to the redevelopment plan and to review the proposed plans for development and basically approve them. That was the contractual language in January 2015. What happened? 4 months later, the town council totally ignored that language and approved a new development plan that reduced the allowable development in Phase 3 from 150 units down to 24 plus units. There was no work with our client. There was no diligent effort to cooperate with our client. There was not even notice of the new plan. A complete breach of the agreement. In addition, the agreement said that the town council, Morristown, was supposed to do all of those things, that language, diligently, continuously, immediately, review the proposed plans, and diligently work with our client to get them approved. 4.5 years later, that still hasn't happened. And finally, the settlement agreement explicitly said that our client could submit an application immediately. In January 2015, our client could immediately submit an application to be qualified as the developer. For 4.5 years, our client has repeatedly asked to do that and repeatedly been turned down. So we have essentially given up on the town officials. We're no longer willing to be dillied around with and toyed around with. We've drafted up a complaint. We're now asking the town council to honor this agreement. We're asking you to, we have now immediately applied to you 4.5 years later to be appointed the developer. And since the language is you're supposed to, without undue delay, qualify our designated developer, we want you to do that. We want you to honor this agreement. And then we want you to honor the rest of the agreement. We want you to review the proposed plans. They have been reviewed extensively by your town planner. And we want you to approve them. And we've essentially given you a time schedule It's a 4-month time schedule. Given that this was all supposed to take place immediately in January 2015, we think that
You're-
4-year time schedule is appropriate.
We get it, thank you. Your time is up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other members of the public wishing to be heard? Billy?
Good evening. My name is Bill Byrne, and I live at 100 Franklin Street in Morristown. And I'm here to talk about back in, I think it was like May, they were talking about the Safe Streets program and how that law enforcement was going to go out to these areas and, you know, start like warning people about jaywalking and people like using their cell phones and stuff when they're crossing the street. Motorists, when they're on their cell phones. I almost got hit a couple of times when I was crossing a street, and I looked both ways. I make sure that that the car wasn't going to come, that the car was going to stop. This is still going on. Look, I don't expect the police to be everywhere, but when they say they're going to do like a Street Smarts program, they got to do the best that they can to get out there, and to kind of like at least give people a warning and saying, well, if you don't stop jaywalking, we're going to start ticketing because, and I'm not saying that the police are not doing their job, but I'm just saying they gotta do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Sure.
Hi, my name is Joe Adamonte, 52 Fairmount Avenue, Morristown. Township. Town is the mailing address. I have some good news for you, and I hope you received my email. I know there was some difficulty with it. There was also an email sent from Joe Bennett, who's the NJDEP Big Tree, and Heritage Tree a chair for the Forest Service. He should have sent that to you, should have received it. The good news I have is that Morristown's Burnham Park is home to the state's second largest ash tree, the county's second largest also. The largest tree, in fact, is in Madison, New Jersey, and that's the largest in the country. It's also home to the fifth and sixth largest tree. The oldest of these trees is 244 years old by estimate of Joe Bennett, and was there when the soldiers of Washington's Continental Army camped on the hill overlooking Burnham Park while the horses were grazing in Burnham Park. The not so good news, as you probably know, is that ash trees are threatened by the emerald ash borer, and millions have been lost throughout the country. That's the not so good news. The good news is that these trees can be saved through a process, an injection process. However, the current Shade Tree Commission is opposed to this. To give you a little bit of background on that, back in 2017, I attended one of their meetings, spoke to the Shade Tree Commission, and just lately, when I saw that there was an article in the newspaper about the largest ash tree in the country, that revived my interest. And I attended the June meeting of the Shade Tree Commission and presented my case in the time that I had. At that time, I also mentioned that Joe Bennett, I had contacted him, but he didn't have a chance to evaluate the trees at that point. Later in June, he came by, I accompanied him That was in the letter he sent to you. And he did measure the trees and so on and so forth and came up with the letter you received about the evaluation and the assessment. So that came a little later. Also, at that point, after that, I sent that letter, which you have copies of now, and in your hands, the hard copy, to the Shade Tree Commission with my latest findings, indicating why I think these trees should be saved. A little bit of background, I also looked into, called some other shade tree commissions, and the ones I could reach, and many towns do not have them. For example, Randolph doesn't have them, Parsippany does not. Madison, I spoke to the shade tree chair there. They're going to save some trees. Morris Plains, they're evaluating the system. Princeton is saving them. Harding has saved many of them. I also spoke to a gentleman who's in charge of the county horticultural expert. Took a little walk with him. His name is Mark Inzano. They're saving 12 trees, many of which, most of them, all of them, are smaller than the trees we have in Burnham Park and that are younger than those trees. They're also saving trees in Willowwood. This is the county. Now, they've taken many trees down that threaten people, that overlook roads and trails and so on and so forth. But they are saving these trees, and I toured that. I have that information here. I mentioned this to, I don't know if you know Carol Barkin, who works for, along with Leslie Bensley, for Morristown, the Visitors Bureau. I mentioned this to her the other day on the phone, just happened to call her about this, and she was happy to hear it, and she said, if these trees, yeah, this could be part, she said, I'm sure this is probably the oldest tree around. This could be part of tours of Burnham Park. She didn't say whether she supported anything, any objections or not. There were several people who wanted to meet and wanted to meet with the Shade Tree Commission. One of them was Joe Bennett. I said, no, let me try meeting with them first. Another was Art Vespignani, who is the facilitator for the Whippany Watershed Action Committee. A couple of years ago, he was putting together a committee. I have his email here. He passed away, unfortunately. Good man. He was a member of the Parsippany Town Council. He passed away a couple of months ago. I do have one person here who volunteered to come in, Dr. George Hamilton, who is the chair of the Department of Entomology for Rutgers University.
Joe?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, your time
Time
is
is
up.
up.
Do you have anything
Okay.
else that you want to add really
Just let me
quick?
finish. The window to save these trees is fast closing. We don't have a lot of time. It could be done. I looked into the cost factor with Joe Dunn, the Morris County Soil Commission. It can be done through, let me just finish with this. What is that called? I'm sorry. I have to flip to my page here.
I'm really going to need you to.
Okay, there is a way to do this and with funding from the county.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. George Hamilton. I'm the chair that Joe just referred to at Rutgers University. I'm not a resident of the county.
Your address, please?
It is 1329 Erin Road, North Brunswick in Middlesex County. So I'm here purely on an informational basis. I'm going to talk a little bit about managing EAB, as we call it, or emerald ash borer, once it comes into an area. I'm going to focus on talking about management for specimen trees, which I would definitely call these. As Joe has already told you, EAB, since its introduction in Michigan several years ago, has made its way across the East Coast to New Jersey. Unfortunately, a couple of years ago, on its way, it killed millions of trees of all sizes. And unfortunately, when it gets into an area, what can be done is very limited. We basically have 4 options. In a lot of cases, people have just let things go through their normal course. Normal course is the tree is attacked by the beetle. Normally at the top of the tree, it moves its way down, and eventually the tree dies and it has to be taken down. The second course of action, which a lot of municipalities have done, is to go through and cut down every ash tree in their town. Places like Indianapolis have done this at great expense. But they have done that in situations where they don't have specimen trees like we're talking about tonight. The third thing that can be done is biological control, and that's the use of other organisms that are brought in from wherever the invasive species like emerald ash borer comes from, to try and bring back ecological balance. And actually, I work with biological control. I have done this with several insects. The problem with biological control, it can be very effective, but it can take a very long time to actually become effective. And several of the insects that we've worked with, we're still waiting to see some of the results from those. Our New Jersey Department of Agriculture is in the process of releasing biological control agents. They're two small parasitoid wasps. One attacks the larvae and one attacks the eggs. The requirements for them to do releases in an area, you have to have a certain amount of acreage, and there has to be a certain number of ash trees per acre in that area before they will do a release. That leaves us with one other option, and that's the use of insecticides. And I will tell you that I preach to my students that that's the last thing that we want to do if we do not have to. Unfortunately, with these specimen trees, I think that we are probably at that option if we want to try and save these trees. If you wait until they're infested, it's probably going to be too late. Now, we have 4 options. The first 2 I'm not a big fan of. They're imidacloprid and dinotefuran. You probably know them from press reports as being what's called neonicotinoid insecticides. They have a very bad rap right now for having large impacts on pollinating insects. And so they would not be something that I would suggest be used, despite the fact that ash trees are not insect pollinated, they're wind pollinated. So in terms of pollinators, they could be used, but there are other insects that might be affected by them. The second materials that can be used would be emamectin benzoate. It is very effective. And the fourth one that could be used is azadirachtin, which is a natural product from the neem tree. All of these materials are systemics. So when they are applied to the tree, they're taken in by the tree, they are redistributed, and when the insects feed on certain parts, they get a toxic dose and die. They have different effectiveness. The imidacloprid, the dinotefuran, is only effective against early instar larvae. Those are the young juvenile stages, the first and second. The benzoate is effective against all of the juvenile stages, and it's also very effective against the adults. The last one, azadirachtin, is also very effective against all juvenile stages. It's not real effective in terms of killing the adults, but it does reduce their fecundity. In other words, the females don't lay as many eggs as they would normally, and slowly the population dies. Now, these are systemics.
George,
Yes.
you reached your 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll stop, unless you have any questions.
Council members will be able to comment after we close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sure.
I'm Susan Landau, 128 James. And
Susan.
Landau, Landau. And I'm here about the James Street sidewalk because it is a marvelous thing. It's actively being used, groups of teenagers, people in motorized wheelchairs, joggers, walkers. There are people that used to walk to the end of the sidewalk where it ends at TJ Elementary that kind of are startled and they can just keep on going. It's so much safer. It's a really pretty walk. It's changed our quality of life at that end of town, so we're really grateful. And I know I sent you an email, but it's important enough to have it said in public to me. Also, the trail in the woods that's going to go around Foots Pond. I walked the trail that's being prepared. It had to go a little deeper in the woods than was initially anticipated. It's really lovely. And so I hope that when that's done, that you'll all take some time to go walk it, because it's a major investment that you guys are doing in the town, and it's going to be great. And then lastly, a lot of photographers use Foots Pond wood. And we have a photographer who is, she turns nature into fine art. And the library elevator bookcase in the Township Library, there's a bookcase right next to the elevator. Her photographs will be there in September and again next January. And if you're in the library, it'll be worth a special trip to the library to see her work. So, and they're all from Foots Pond Woods, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there are no more members of the public wishing.
I'm Kristen Ace. I live at 24 Franklin Street, and I am the chairperson of the Shade Tree Commission. I can honestly say that I don't think you have a more passionate group of people dedicated to saving trees than on your current commission. And so our decision to take down every ash tree in this town was met with a very heavy heart. However, it was also met with great education. Every single member of the Shade Tree Commission has had an emerald ash borer education or training. And I have had one every year for the past 5 years. Some things have changed in these past 5 years. In my first year, we were instructed that we would need to treat an ash tree only once to protect it against the emerald ash borer. In my second year of training, we were told the tree would need to be treated up to 3 times over a period of years to save it from the emerald ash borer. In my third year of training, the numbers went up exponentially. It was discovered that a tree, an ash tree, needs to be treated for the entirety of its life to possibly save it from the emerald ash borer. So then we get to the chemicals. I have a sheet here with some information on the chemicals and some links that you can look at. I want to remind everybody that chemical companies are in the business of selling chemicals. The chemical that this gentleman is speaking of, the benzoid, by the way, this gentleman never came to the Shade Tree Commission. So that's a little disquieting on my part. But that chemical, when you open up its page, is corrosive, acute toxicity, irritant, health hazard, environmental hazard. Now, the companies are telling us that we're going to inject this into the tree and it's not going to infect our environment. Everybody must remember that a tree does not grow in a vacuum. The roots of a tree go into the earth and they search for water. So anything that's running up and down the tree is going to go into our earth and into our water. Now, the chemical also goes up to the top of the tree where the leaves are. And when the leaves fall, they have the chemical in their leaf system. And we're told that if they fall on the ground in the most perfect of situations, they won't be toxic. And the perfect situation is direct sunlight. Can we guarantee that when these leaves fall, they will fall in direct sunlight and not on the water? Because the other thing about this chemical is it is not to be used around water, bees, or flowers. The 3 trees that we are talking about are right on a freshwater pond. Freshwater invertebrate and fish are the most deeply negatively affected by this chemical. So, considering the sizes of these trees, how much chemicals have to be pumped into them, and for how many years they will need to be pumped into them to possibly save them, the Shade Tree Commission felt that the environmental negative impact would far outweigh the desire to save a tree. Our children play in these parks, our animals walk through these parks, there are other insects that go through these parks. We don't know what will happen. And there is one thing that has not changed in the 5 years I've been going to the trainings, is that at the end of every one of these sessions, with whether there are 30 or 300 people there, I raise my hand and I ask this question: what is the long-term effect of using these chemicals in our environment? And the answer for the past 5 years has been the same: we don't know. We haven't been using these chemicals long enough to know what will happen in 30 years. So when we hear from our scientists that if the human race does not change their behaviors this year, in 30 years, we may not be here, I don't see how we are having this conversation. I don't understand it. But I just wanted to come forward and let you know why we made the decisions we made. And that these so-called experts have never come to our commission to talk to us, ever. And we were never told that these things were going to happen by a Morris Township resident. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. Any comments from council members on public hearing?
Yeah, here, I'd like to start off, with regard to the, two-level development. If the administration can send us the 2015 settlement agreement that, comes to the public, reference, that would be helpful.
Sure.
And then, second, with regard to the ash trees, I don't know enough about it, the science, I typically defer to the Safety Commission. Though at the same time, I am aware of the historic significance of old trees. I guess I would encourage the Safety Commission to get an opinion from DEP as to their support or not for the proposed trunk injection treatment. So that's it.
Thank you.
You know, I'll start, if I might just pick up on the Shade Tree Commission that Stefan started, and I agree with him. But I will say that, you know, one of the best things about our town is our public's involvement. And you have a Shade Tree Commission here who I think through the years has done an outstanding job. And we're lucky that we have the quality of people on it that take the time, do the education, do the research, have people participate in the Shade Tree Commission, and they are in the same tough spot that we often are, where you're making an unpopular decision, okay? And they did, because I was one of the people that was bringing, or my neighbors, okay, and the Shade Tree Commission was working with us as to why they were doing what they were doing. But at the end of the day, there was a tremendous amount of education, there was a tremendous amount of communication, and there was agreement that what we were doing as a town, what we were doing at the recommendation of the Shade Tree Commission, who did all this work, did all this research, and continues to invest their time in this process, that we were doing the right thing. Okay, we were doing the right thing. To build up on this a little bit more, you know, it's not easy, and I think that we have to respect the commission. And if people want to reopen up an issue, I know the people on our commission. You know, we're open to ideas, we're open to discussion. Granted, we all get to the point, and that's the purpose of the phone here, okay, with the timeout after a certain period of time. You get to a point where, you know, you have to stop the discussion and make a decision. If people have if they have issues with what the Shade Tree Commission and what this council was well aware of, and what administration is actually acting out on. I think that the recommendation for change should come from our own Shade Tree Commission. It should not come, and I will be honest with you, I'm a little bit sad that somebody went to the state of New Jersey without the participation of Morristown in those discussions. Okay, why would you go around the town and, for the purposes of having this discussion? If you're gonna go down to the town, have the town participate in the discussion, okay? Bring the town with you, okay? We've got good people working for us. We've got an engineering department that's very good. Bring the people with you. This town is also, you know, you mentioned that we're one of the only towns with a Shade Tree Commission. There's several towns with a Shade Tree Commission, but we're one of the only towns with an arborist. We have our own professional that we can rely on. Let's rely on our Shade Tree Commission, and let's rely on our professionals to take the facts, discern the facts, and if there's going to be a change in course, let it come from them.
Thank you.
As a side note, you know, so this is the Burnham Park Association, which is sort of a quasi, they have their own committee, and so they make sort of decisions for their own park, since it is a deeded park. There may be an opportunity for consideration, whereby the town essentially does not take down the ash trees, and the Burnham Park Association tries to save the trees, but they're responsible for removing the trees if the ash borers end up killing them.
So I'd like to chime in. This is my ward. Burnham Park people, thank you for being here, and thank you for your courage and saying what you're saying about saving this 244-year-old tree. Kristen, I admire your passion and your service, and I know you guys serve without compensation, and you've been working hard for 5 years. We can't save every tree, but I think we should try very hard to save this 244-year-old tree that is the second oldest tree in New Jersey. I mean, we're crazy not to. The town lost a tree right above the church a few years ago when the tornado hit, and that was an old tree that we were sad to lose. I don't know if it was infected with the elm ash borer or not, but it was unfortunate that we lost it. Look, I think we have a lot of information that was thrown at us tonight. I know I wasn't expecting this. It's not on the agenda. I think we should really try to look at this very seriously, very methodically, and, you know, either we set up a council committee or we meet with the administration. I like Stefan's idea a lot about finding out what the DEP approved list is. Obviously, some trees are being saved, so we should look into how they're doing it. Not just basically say that all saving is bad. I think that all chemicals are bad. Everything, you know, I think if some trees are being saved, I think we should try to look at what the best practices are. So I'd like to ask the administration to look into to this particular matter, or if the council president, if it pleases the council president, to create a subcommittee, I would love to serve on it. And I also think the Burnham Park Association is a wonderful model. It's been nationally recognized, and what better group to lead this effort and to work with the town? And I don't think they were working around the town. I know that they've been working with the Whippany River Watershed and other groups for the last couple of years. The other thing I want to say about Ms. Carrington's comments about the manhole issues going back to 2011.
Can we stay with Shade Tree? With this one fact?
I just want to get my comments out, please, Councilman, if I may. Thank you. I believe my recollection with the manhole issue was that there was a gap from 2013 to 2019. We had a special reliability master that came to our town that analyzed the infrastructure. It was a special study that was commissioned, and the administration at the time, with the appeal of Councilwoman Feldman going down to the BPU and going down to Trenton to make a presentation to Trenton after someone was injured and burned and scarred on South Street. I think that led to this special reliability master study. So my question for the administration is, has the town reached out to the BPU? So as a result of the last 3 issues, February, January, and this recent one a few days ago or weeks ago, I think we should ask on behalf of the council that the town reach out to the BPU and to, to find out if we can do something similar that was done almost 10 years ago. And I know I've stated this before, but these studies have to get done repeatedly, every 8 to 10 years, because the infrastructure gets old, it gets aged, water gets in there, it causes these faults, it causes these fires when water mixes with air in the underground explosions, and that's what causes this. So I think that question has to be handled, and it has to be handled seriously and followed up on to get them back here. I would agree with Ms. Keene that came to oppose the attic basement ordinance. I'd like to table that ordinance until we can get more information. So thank you again for coming for the second time in the last month. And lastly, on a positive note, I really want to thank the administration for the sidewalk and for the Foots Pond sign that's there. It was a real pleasure to see that sign on my way to the council meeting tonight. So I don't know if that's the final sign or not, but it was nice to see the Friends of Foots Pond Wood sign. And I do know there's some questions about the sidewalk around the perimeter, and did it go too far into the woods or not enough? But I have seen lots of people on the sidewalk using the sidewalk, and it's definitely an enhancement to our quality of life. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
On the 3 issues, what I see very interesting is that the experts never reach out to the Shade Tree Commission, which was the proper channel. I don't think that we have here spare time to keep building subcommittees when we have the Shade Tree Commission. They do a great work. And anything else that has to be dealt with our trees here has to be dealt through them, and that's my opinion.
Councilman? I'm sorry, the public hearing is closed, so you can't
Well,
speak.
I just want to counter that with, we have one person saying they didn't show up, and then another group saying they did attend meetings. I think, it's kind of a he said, she said. I'd like to see the minutes of the past to see that this statement is or is not correct, because, I agree with you, Councilman. Yes, that's the proper channel, but you do have one group saying they did communicate and another group saying they didn't, so somewhere in the middle is the truth. I'd like to find that.
I have to take exception with that, okay?
Excuse me?
No, let me-
Comments from the
I have
public?
to take exception to that. I agree with Pastor Silver wholeheartedly with his comments, but quite honestly, it's not a he said, she said situation. When we have a commission that's part of our town, I believe my commission, okay? I believe my administration. I am not going to challenge their integrity, okay? I'm not going to challenge their integrity. They work hard, they donate their time, they do the education, and to then say that it's a he said, she said situation is not right. Well, I think I agree with Pastor Silver. Forming the subcommittee is not necessary. It's
I
not
suggested the
subcommittee. I know you did, and I agree with Pastor Silver, who was saying it's not necessary when you have a functioning Shade Tree Commission in town. And keep in
There's a
mind,
lot of people
let me
that
finish my
disagree
comment, Allison.
with-
Allison, let me give a comment.
Yeah, okay.
They have a forum to bring it to, and that forum is the Shade Tree Commission. And furthermore, if there is going to be any further discussion on this is what I'm saying, bring it to the Shade Tree Commission. bring those experts to the Shade Tree Commission. They are the ones that invested their time in the education on this issue, and they are the best ones to decide. No, it's not political.
When do they meet? Shade Tree Commission?
It's not.
Let's just, for benefit of the public, let's just see when the next Shade Tree Commission is, so that if the dialogue has not been had, and if these gentlemen have not attended a meeting, they have an opportunity to do so at the next meeting. You cannot speak from the public. The public hearing portion is
Council
closed.
President, the next meeting is next Tuesday at 7 o'clock in room 201, Tuesday, August 13th.
Thank you. So you may want to.
We have a council meeting that night. We have a redevelopment meeting that night.
Correct.
So, Council President, my last point was on the two attorneys that spoke. I know that I probably can't comment on the specifics, but in addition to what Councilman Armington asked for, I would like to request that we go into closed session for the redevelopment meeting to discuss this litigation or the pending threat of this litigation. If we can add that to the agenda for next Tuesday, I'd appreciate it. The other comment I really want to make, it's really not relevant to the public hearing, but it is relevant to all these meetings being rescheduled. You know, I'm missing the Environmental Commission meeting tonight because it's the same night of a council meeting that was rescheduled. Our council meeting was supposed to be next Tuesday. Our redevelopment was supposed to be Thursday. For the benefit of the public, when we reschedule meetings, you know, if I'm having trouble juggling meetings, I wonder what the public feels like when, you know, the meeting calendar isn't adhered to. So I just want to, you know, I know that nothing can be done right now, but I just want to voice my concern that when we reschedule meetings, it becomes difficult for us to attend our obligation meetings as well as for the members of the public to be able to attend their meetings. And you know, I'd be interested in forming a subcommittee on the Elmwood Ash Borer. I served as a board member of the Whippany River Watershed as appointed by the mayor, along with Kristen Ace when she was there and the mayor appointee. It's a huge problem. It's not just Morristown. It's all over. And it's a crisis. You know, I live in Windmill Pond, and there's hundreds of trees that are affected. And we're a small association. That's one of hundreds of associations that are privately owned and operated and managed in Morris County. So it's a real issue, and I know that the group has come here in the past to educate us about the elm ash borer and the problems. We've had training. You know, we're not the scientists, we're the politicians. I think that you know, with all due respect, and I apologize and forgive me if this isn't coming out right, a Shade Tree Commission is a commission. It's appointed by the mayor. They're volunteers. But there's scientists and environmental engineers and environmental, look at Art Vispignani. He was an engineer and he was a public servant, and he, I know, was very concerned about saving these trees, some of these trees, especially a 244-year-old one. So I feel strongly that, you know, whatever we can do to help, I think should be our answer. And I'd love to set up a council committee to work urgently on this, if anybody wants to, if it's at the pleasure.
Just give me 1 second, Allison. Marge, I'm sorry, but we are deliberating council comments. Kevin, can you please refrain from asking Marge questions while council can give council respect, please? Thank you.
If there's anybody that would like to serve with me, or I'll work by myself and I'll contact the Shade Tree Commission. And but I think it's better when we work together, quite frankly, with subcommittees. But we'd have to, yes, work quickly, but I'd be willing to serve.
Thank you. Any other comments from council members? Well, I would like to just take a moment to thank our engineering department, Anthony and team, for the speed sign on on Flagler Street. I think it's going to be effective, and I also like to thank you for the speed sign on Willow Street. You did that very timely per our last council meeting, and just maybe about a couple days ago, the sign was installed, and there was a member, director of operations from Calvary Baptist Church, who actually sent an email to the mayor and myself and expressed her sincere thank you as well as, as a worker there and, as a resident, the residents have been appeased, and it does look like, some of the speeding has kind of subdued. So it's been somewhat effective. So I want to just thank you for getting on that and taking care of that so quickly. All right, if there are no other comments from council members, would administration like to comment on any of the public?
I would. First, with regard to the Speedwell redevelopment area and Mr. Marshall's council's comments, they're clearly just mischaracterizations of the facts and the legal obligations of the town in the agreement. Because it is pending litigation, I'll sort of leave it at that. We have our redevelopment council that is reviewing and preparing a response. And once we have an update for that, we will update the council on that matter as well. As far as the power outage that occurred yesterday, there was a fault in 2 circuits. One occurred yesterday morning, and the second, which was the most significant, happened yesterday afternoon about 2 o'clock at the corner of Morris and Lafayette or Pine. They were continuing to do the repair this morning. Despite my repeated requests and cajoling and pleading, quite frankly, for JCP&L to provide explanation as to what has occurred, I have yet to get an explanation from them as to the cause of the fault, although they have assured me that once their internal investigation is completed, that they will provide us with information. I am equally as concerned about safety as I think many of you are, especially given the history that, though predates me, I'm certainly well aware of some of the prior incidents that have occurred regarding the infrastructure for the power. And as a result of the BPO activity that happened earlier this decade, we do meet quarterly with representatives from JCP&L and the BPU regarding the infrastructure maintenance and training. We had a meeting as recently as about a month ago. However, we certainly are not aware of anything that's happened that would justify what occurred yesterday. So I am going to continue to press upon JCP&L to provide this town, our administration, our governing body, and our citizens with an explanation as to why it occurred and what they're doing to make sure it does not happen in the future. Lastly, with regard to the Emerald Ash Borer and the Burnham Park Association, I think you've said pretty much what needs to be said, but I will say on behalf of the administration that we continue to support the Shade Tree Commission and their infinitely difficult job in learning and assessing and taking all the information and making those tough decisions with regard to our shade trees. They are, however, and I will assure you that they have made infinite effort in educating themselves and making sure that they have every bit of information they could possibly have with regard to the Emerald Ash Borer. I personally have had inordinate conversations with Kristen Ace and her team, and believe that they have come to that conclusion through education, and we'll continue to lean on them for additional support and advice, along with our town arborist. That being said, I think that covers all of the comments from the administration for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to a
Can I
writer.
just make one last comment this year? Because people didn't address Bill's comment, because Bill's comment about pedestrian safety and cars, particularly with cell phone usage when people are walking. And I know, like, for example, if the mayor was here tonight, one of his pet peeves is jaywalking, things like that. But I do have to say, Bill, that the Director of Public Safety has stepped up. It's actually very evident in a lot of the statistics that we're seeing more policemen talking to people about certain violations, actually issuing summonses, and having that record goes back is invaluable, having that record and being able to make future change. But you're absolutely right, we have to constantly stay on top of it. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Bill. All right, moving on to mayor's proclamations and presentations. So at this time, in the absence of the mayor, I'd like to invite Dwight, is it Reevy? Peavy up in your organization so that we can present you the proclamation.
We brought our entourage with us, the steering committee, so if you don't mind, we're all going to stand.
They were all here for sure. I thought they were all here for sure.
So, I'm Dwight Peavy. These are the steering committee members. We are celebrating our 24th anniversary.
You may want to speak into the mic and then have your team.
We're celebrating our 24th anniversary of Community Health Day. This event is in its 24th year. It came out of an idea and a concept working with Morristown Memorial Hospital, that was their name back then, with a member from our church, Church of God in Christ here in Morristown, where they brought the hospital to the community. And it started off at Manahan Village. It grew to Calvary Baptist. We're now at Headquarters Plaza for our 5th year. We're offering free screenings and all kind of medical information related to health and wellness. It's a fun day for family and friends, and we're just excited about this year's event, the 24th year for 2019. There are various civic organizations, the faith-based community, as well as the local vendors and exhibitors that will be participating in the day. Normally we have about 70 or some odd exhibitors throughout Headquarters Plaza, along with up to 12 to 13 different screenings, and all of this is free. We have activities for children, youth, seniors. We've expanded it this year to a pavilion-type setting, and of course, our partners with Morristown Medical Center has helped to make this event a success. We also do a walkathon. We start off at Morristown Hospital with a walkathon, getting everybody in shape. That starts at 8, and we end up at Headquarters Plaza. So it's just a fun-filled day. We certainly appreciate the council and the city supporting this over the years, and we're just excited that this is going to be happening. I would ask Gwen, where is she? From the Morristown Medical Center to kind of have some words as well.
Oh, thank you, Dwight. I just want to say thank you to everyone, especially the volunteers, the faith-based community, and the sororities, fraternities, everyone involved. And I especially want to thank our doctors and our nurses and everyone, our volunteers who are coming out into the community on Saturday to donate their time and their experience and expertise. And we thank the foundation who provides the funding for this event for 24 years.
All right, so at this time, on behalf of Mayor Timothy Darty, sorry he couldn't be here to present your proclamation because he's on vacation, but I will read it on his behalf. And the proclamation reads, whereas the 24th Annual Community Health Day will be held at Headquarters Plaza in Morristown, New Jersey on Saturday, September 7, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And whereas the town of Morristown has a vital interest in the health of its residents in promoting healthy, productive livings, and whereas health education, disease prevention, and health promotion are essential components of health and wellness. And whereas Community Health Day has continued to promote the health of the residents of Morristown by providing sound health promotions, disease prevention, interventions, and a fun-filled, family-focused event. Now, therefore, I, Timothy P. Darty, Mayor of Town of Morristown, hereby proclaim Saturday, September 7, 2019, as Community Health Day in the town of Morristown in recognition of its importance in promoting a better health status for all Morristown residents through sound health education principles and proven health promotion interventions. Signed by Timothy P.
Well, thank you, Council President. Flyers that we'd like to kind of share.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to add, or covered everything?
We're well represented with all of our sororities, fraternities, and the faith-based community. So
All right.
thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll make sure that this gets posted on the town website and Facebook.
Okay, great, thanks.
Oh, yeah. Is it okay if we take a photo?
Sure.
You had to sit through this long public hearing. It's your show. Oh. Oh.
Bring the plaque.
Come right in the middle. Yeah, that's right. You have 10 minutes. Can you see?
You hold that, then I'll hold this.
Okay. Come on, Bobby. We'll turn sideways.
Thank you.
So you started the shade tree.
No. So, yes.
Should get that out.
Thank you.
I should go to this.
Get your blood pressure taken.
Yeah. Nutritional information.
Okay. Jillian, would you like to give us a report on behalf of the mayor?
I certainly will. Okay. So past events since our last council meeting. On Tuesday, July 16th, Cops and Rodders Car at the Green, which was the same night as our last council meeting, but I'm sure it was a success. Thursday, July 18th, was the Verizon Corporate Classic 5K. Saturday, July 20th, was the PBA Charity Basketball Tournament at Caldwell Playground. I understand that was also a rousing success, although it was extremely hot that day. Thursday, July 25th, Meet Me in Morristown. Saturday, July 27th, was Central Biblico's Community Integration Festival at the Green. I'm sure Councilman can comment on that as well. Saturday, August 3rd, Grow Green's Al Fresco at the Farm. And Sunday, August 4th, was the Calvary Baptist Family Fun Day and Cookout at Granby Park. Upcoming, there are live events since our next meeting's not till September, but I'll try to go through this quickly, Councilwoman Foster. All right, there's two events on Tuesday, August 13th. At 11 a.m. is the grand opening of Sandy's Soul Food Restaurant at 82 Speedwell Avenue. And at 7 p.m. is the rescheduled council redevelopment meeting right here in council chambers. On Wednesday, August 14th, from noon to 3 o'clock is the senior picnic in the senior center. It's also my birthday, just so you know. Thursday, August 15th. We'll see. Thursday, August 15th through Sunday, August 18th is the St. Margaret's Carnival. Saturday, August 17th from noon to 10 p.m. is the 9th Annual Jazz and Blues Festival on the Green. I'm sure the mayor would want me to make sure everyone is there. That is Saturday, August 17th from noon to 10 p.m., the Jazz and Blues Festival on the Green. On Saturday, August 24th from 11 to 1 is the Morristown Police Department's open house at Morristown Police Bureau, which is right here in Town Hall, 200 South Street. We are looking for our best and brightest to become Morristown police officers. The civil service exam application period has opened. If you are interested in becoming a Morristown police officer, and you are between the ages of 18 and 35, you too can go to the civil service website, register for the exam. That registration period closes at the end of August. If you would like more information, go to the Morristown Police Department's website. You can also call Captain Buckley. You can also go to the Public Safety Facebook page. You can also go to the town's website or the town's Facebook page. There are many ways of getting more information. On Sunday, August 25th, is the Central Biblical Community Family Barbecue at Caldwell Park. Councilman, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, after the success that we had at the Community Integration Festival, and before I comment on the barbecue, I want to thank the police department, the fire department that were there, the mayor, our Mr. Corcoran was there too. Mayor Doty called Morris Township mayor. He said, you have to come here to see what is happening. He didn't know what was that, and when he came, he was amazed. He told us to bring that festival to Township. And now we're going to have a follow-up event in which we want to invite the whole community, the Renew Park that we have for a barbecue and sharing and having unity in our community.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
So that's from noon to 5 o'clock on Saturday, the
Yes.
25th. Thursday, July 29th, starting with the sidewalk sale at 11 o'clock.
July?
Yes, you know what? Thank you. That's August 29th. Yeesh. Meet me in Morristown. And then Saturday, August 31st, from 11 to 6 p.m. is the Community Labor Day Jam and Barbecue, also at Caldwell Park, and that's sponsored by Stephen Tillett. On Sunday, September 1st, I can't believe we're almost to September, from noon to 5 p.m. is Bethel AME's Back to School Bash at Bishop Nasri Way Lot. On Monday, September 2nd, Town Hall is closed for the Labor Day holiday. Saturday, September 7th, there are lots of events on that day. You have from 9 a.m. to 11, the Seeing Eye Doggy Dash at Vale Mansion. From 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Vale Mansion
Why
or
is-
Lidgerwood Park?
I think it's Lidgerwood Park. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Sure.
From 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Community Health Day at Headquarters Plaza that we just discussed a little while ago. From 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Rabies Clinic here at Town Hall. And then from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is the Grand Fondo's Fort Nonces Hill Climb. And then lastly, on Sunday, September 8th, from 7 a.m. to noon is the Grand Fondo on Speedwell Avenue. I think that's plenty.
That's a mouthful.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. All right, moving on to council liaison reports. Allison, I know you said the Environmental Commission is meeting.
Yeah, they were meeting this evening.
The MPA actually met on the 16th, and I reported out at the meeting that same night.
Councilman Armington, anything from the planning board?
Is he on mute?
Okay. All right. Are there any other calendar of events that council members would like to make the public aware of in addition to what we've already heard? Okay, moving on to regular business.
There are two ordinances for introduction on the agenda this evening. Ordinance number O-33-2019, ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the town of Morristown, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-40.2, handicap parking on streets for private residences, to amend the placard number assigned to a dedicated parking space for a resident of 15 Hill Street.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance number O-28-2019.
Second.
Let's see, Councilman Armington.
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Ordinance O-33-2019 has been properly introduced by title and will be considered further after a public hearing to be held on September 10th. Ordinance O-34-2019, ordinance deleting a designated handicap parking space on Hill Street from Section 7-40.2 of the Code of the Town of Morristown.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance number O-34-2019.
Second.
Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Ordinance O-34-2019 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing to be held on September 10th.
You move that one. You pull that one?
Oh, this is an old copy.
Oh,
I'm sorry about that.
okay.
It goes here. It goes right there.
Okay.
Okay, there are 5 ordinances for public hearing and adoption on the agenda this evening. Ordinance O-28-2019, and ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 30 Land Use Regulations.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-29-2019.
Second.
At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing on ordinance number O-29-2019.
Karen Keene from Elephant Park. As I said in the opening, that I think there's more study that needs to be done on this, especially in regard to the grandfathered in, since there's discrepancies in the requirements. Plus that there was also one of the ordinances that couldn't be found, I think it was 13-46
Yes.
2F.
And after you mentioned that, I realized that that's actually a typo, and it should be 13-45E2. It's just a minor typo.
1345E2?
It should be 13-45E2.
Okay. So do we need to submit another motion with the amendment?
It's a minor change, so it's not
Okay.
something that's substantial that affects
What about the
adoption.
grandfather?
No, that provision is as is. There's nothing to change there.
Okay. I have a question, Council President.
Any other members of the public wishing to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from council members?
So, Stefan, it's Allison. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
When this came up at the planning board, did they have any specific comments or concerns?
No, essentially, it was presented by the planning division, and it seemed pretty, yeah, there were no comments.
Okay, thanks.
My comment on this, I think it's a good ordinance. You know, the intent and what we're trying to do with this ordinance is the right thing. However, Karen's comment is actually with reference to the subsection B that you have in the ordinance, which actually is the exceptions pre-existing and approved dwellings. And, you know, when I do read it, in the second part, it says, all required zoning and construction permits were obtained, this is an exception, and complied with at the time of construction. Question for you, does that also mean under the regulations at the time of construction? It says that all required zoning and construction permits were obtained and complied with at the time of construction. So it's
So whatever
what the law
rules
was
apply.
at the time.
At the time, correct.
At the time, which is good, because the questions that are coming up, the public concern, which I do think that has to be addressed, is the sufficiency of our public records as to what the law was and what the approvals were. And again, with an old town, moving municipal buildings over the courses of years, geez, we all lose records. I don't know the sufficiency of the records, but what I am concerned about is protecting those people under this grandfathering clause that we have here, okay? It's clear that when you built it, you had to build it compliant with the law, and you had to have the necessary, if there's permits required, you had to have permits. Sometimes properties may go back far enough where there was no permits necessary. You know, laws have evolved over time. So what is the forum for somebody like Karen to basically be able to vet this out objectively?
Well, I mean, she can, I believe she had a meeting with the building department, with our construction code office to determine whether permits were ever pulled. I know Al's here, I don't know the specifics of what the conversation was, but there is an avenue for any resident to go have a meeting and discuss what was constructed, when it was constructed, and whether proper permits were pulled.
And when there's a doubt, is the benefit given to the applicant, or is the benefit given to the town?
The benefit is given to the safety. So
To the
if it's a safety issue, want to make sure that it's safe to have a bedroom in the attic or everything that is in compliance with the ordinance. So safety comes first.
Is there anywhere else in our town ordinances that address the issue of the sufficiency of proofs in zoning?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Do you think that it would be wise to actually explore that as either a corollary to this ordinance or as an additional ordinance? Again, I agree with what the town is doing here.
I'm not sure
Again,
if
what
that.
I'm trying to do, you understand what I'm trying to do? I'm
Right.
just trying to protect people's
The only
rights.
thing I would comment is I'm not sure if that would be contained in an ordinance. only because the municipal land use law's principle is that if you change a zoning ordinance, if you're grandfathered in and exists before, whatever the use is or whatever the purpose is that's there, the standard principle is that you're then grandfathered in if the use changes or the purpose changes from a subsequent ordinance. So I'm not sure, we can go back and look at it to see if there is something
I'm
specific.
comfortable with the answer I got on grandfathering. I think I am comfortable with what region you are saying here. What I'm now concerned with is basically, usually you're dealing with a homeowner who's not familiar with these processes, and are we all comfortable that we're assured that the assistance is there to look for the records, that people are keeping an open mind, that we're looking at the picture as it relates to this particular person, this particular home?
Absolutely, and we are giving deference to the resident. But we have to keep in mind, let's say there is a zoning permit that cannot be found. When a person does construction, not only do they need zoning permit, but they also need other permits, building permits, plumbing permits, whatever that may be. But if none of that exists, then nothing was ever pulled. So there are different departments, and each department keeps their own records. And if one department is missing it, other departments may have.
Yeah, but my area of concern is the older homes. Seriously, when I moved into my house, it's 125 years old. We pulled a lot of permits, we kept the permits, we kept good records, but it was also amazing what we found.
Right.
Okay? And I'm sure a lot of the work was done without permits because legitimately it was not required at the time. Now, I do understand where you're going with this is the precedent you're trying to establish is safety. And I will tell you that as long as I honestly think, I'm going to vote for this, by the way. I am going to vote for this, by the way. But what I want to just emphasize here is we have to make sure that the process is actually one where we are supporting the homeowner in the situation, where the homeowner is giving a certain amount of deference, particularly when age of the permits or age of the homes or transfer of ownerships or movements of municipal town halls is in question, that it objectively and fairly, with some deference to the applicant, that the person's being helped and guided through the process.
Council President, I just have a more very basic question on this. Isn't it private property, though, like someone's attic and someone's basement? Like, how can we regulate what someone does in their house? Like, sorry for this very basic question, but
No, that's okay.
I don't have a single-family house. I don't own it, so I don't know. But in my townhouse, we have a covenant and we have different regulations. But if I owned a single-family house, like, barring that I know I would have to get a construction permit or an electrical permit or a plumbing permit, why, if I wanted to renovate my attic or if I wanted to put in a basement, why couldn't I do that?
Because there are safety issues, and you can have it if you meet certain requirements, which is in the ordinance.
Okay.
So
it's not saying you can or can't do it, you just have to meet certain safety requirements?
for the basement, yes.
Yes. As long as I have-
For the
What about
basement,
for an attic?
For attics, no.
No.
Because of the safety issues that are involved when you're dealing with putting a dwelling, a bedroom in an attic, and whether there are means of egress. And there's sufficient.
I mean, I grew up in a house and my father was an engineer and he built the attic and that's where my 3 brothers lived. So I mean, I just, I just wonder how much, like, why it was fine, nothing happened. There was,
A number of episodes where things have happened. So we just have to look out for the safety of the residents, and there may be people who.
But why couldn't someone build it if it met certain safety requirements? Why forbid someone to renovate an attic if it meets the safety guidelines? I'm just saying, I mean, I grew up in a house where, we
You're right.
convert.
We had a very healthy discussion with code enforcement, with zoning, with our building department.
I'm sure you did.
And we discussed those issues, and that was a very valid point.
I was going to say, keep in mind that we're talking about the definition of an attic in the ordinance is the space between the ceiling assembly and the roof assembly. So we're talking about an attic, not necessarily a third floor. A third floor, depending on how the house is constructed, may be safe and may meet the requirement as long as it's not an attic. But an attic, by this ordinance's definition, does have inherent safety issues that we are concerned about, which is why we are specifically restricting sleeping purposes, attics being used for sleeping purposes. Basements are different. Basements have all kinds of flavors and configurations, and so that's why this ordinance specifies in what cases that lower levels or basements can be used for sleeping purposes and how they can be done safely and legally. And that's really what we're attempting to do here, because right now our land use ordinance is pretty silent on it, which we think leaves our homeowners and residents potentially open for safety issues, which we want to make sure we are preventing. There's also sort of a corollary issue where you have some people who, this is kind of a slippery slope, can be a slippery slope towards illegal conversions as well. So we want to make sure that in addition to the safety issues for sort of any resident, that we are not, allowing people to further convert their properties into something that might be illegal dwelling units as well.
So you can't extend upward? You wouldn't be able to build like a third floor if you had like a partial attic?
If you built a third floor and created a third floor with a second means of egress and things like that, I think that's a different issue, and it would be considered on its merits separate from this ordinance.
That's zoning.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, if there are no more comments or questions from council members, call the question, please.
On the adoption of ordinance O-28-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Ordinance O-28-2019 is adopted. Ordinance O-29-2019, an ordinance of the Town of Morristown and the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, establishing compensation for certain officers and employees of the Town of Morristown.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-29-2019.
Second?
At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing no public comments. Any comments or questions from council members? Seeing none, call the question,
On the
please.
adoption of O-29-2019, Councilman Armington? Sorry, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Ordinance 29-2019 is adopted. Ordinance O-30-2019, an ordinance of the Town of Morristown and the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, establishing compensation for certain officers and employees of the Town of Morristown.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-30-2019.
Second?
Are there any members of the public wishing to be heard on this ordinance this evening? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from council members? Call the question, please.
On the adoption of O-30-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Ordinance 30-2019 is adopted. 30, did I say?
You're
Yes.
at 31.
Ordinance O-31-2019, ordinance providing for certain capital improvements of the Morristown Municipal Airport by the Town of Morristown and the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, and appropriating $900,000 therefore to finance part of the cost thereof.
I'd like to make a motion to to adopt ordinance number O-31-2019.
Second?
At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Any members of the public wishing to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. Any comments or questions from council members? Seeing none, call the question, please.
On the adoption of O-31-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Ordinance 31-2019 is adopted. Ordinance O-32-2019, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the town of Morristown, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 4-40.2, handicap parking on streets for private residences, to amend the placard number assigned to a dedicated parking space for a resident on Clinton Street.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-32-2019.
Second.
This time I'd like to open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Any members of the public wishing to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from council members? Seeing none, call the question, please.
On the adoption of O-32-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
There are 9 resolutions for adoption on the agenda. Unless there are resolutions that members of council would like to pull for separate consideration, I would ask for a motion to adopt resolutions R-123, 2019 through 131, 2019, and Moss.
Can we pull 127, please?
Any others?
Just for the record, you already pulled 122?
I announced that at the beginning of the meeting.
Yep.
Thank you. So I would amend that, I would ask for a motion for resolution numbers 123 through 126, 2019, and 128 through 131, 2019, in Moss.
I'd like to make a motion to approve those resolutions in Moss.
Second?
Okay, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
And Council President Foster?
Yes.
Resolution R-127-2019, a resolution authorizing and approving a professional services contract with Dewberry Engineers, Inc. for engineering services for the park at Speedwell. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Councilman?
Sounds kind of nice. What are we doing? Actually, it's not one of those good things it sounds like, and I think.
Yes,
But
so.
it wasn't clear in what we were doing.
Yes, okay. So within the Speedwell redevelopment area, there's that open space that's between the Madera 44 and Madera
This is the
55
Madera, okay.
and the Phase 3 property that, interestingly, coincidentally enough, as Paul Marshall was speaking about earlier today. That piece of property is slated to become a park. We had financial contributions from the Madera developers. However, after having gone through the design process and having now bid it twice, we now know that the park is much more expensive than we originally anticipated, actually probably twice as much as we initially anticipated. Also, coincidentally, with the uncertainty with the Phase 3 redevelopment project and its proximity to the park area, we didn't want to move forward with a major investment if it would have to be damaged or destroyed with the coming Phase 3 redevelopment. So we wanted to take the immediate interim step to at least remove the asphalt and put down sod and/or grass in the interim so that at least that area is usable for open space until such time as we can make some permanent improvements.
So the purpose of this is basically to create an interim park pending the final park.
That's the simple way to say it, short.
It gets the property cleaned up.
Yes.
And it gets
And
the
it's
property
usable.
usable
Correct.
until the
Until final improvements can
final
be made.
approvals are done.
Exactly.
Okay, Gotcha, thank you.
Yep.
On the adoption of resolution R-127-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Iannicone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council President Foster?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Okay. A little longer than we anticipated. Normally, we'll have sleep. No. All right, at this time, we have no old or unfinished business, no new business, so I'd like,
Council President, may I request that I don't know, it keeps getting on and off and on and off. We used to have a council correspondence item on the agenda, and I don't see it on this agenda. Could we, in the future, make sure we have a council correspondence? And for the record, I would like to submit the letter from Joe Adamante that was sent July 9th, so that it's part of the public record, the council correspondence, and the letter from Linda Kahn, and that was sent today as part of the redevelopment agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, but it comes, it's just included in the package.
We had a conversation about it several months ago. It was removed from the agenda. If y'all want to put it back on, I'd be more than happy to.
But do we get it, it's included in,
Not in the packet.
not
When
in
I
the
get correspondence, I distribute it individually to each council member.
So how is that correspondence then maintained as part of the public record?
The clerk is the public, the custodian, so she has copies of every correspondence.
But the public doesn't see that. They see this agenda. And in the past, it's listed with correspondence and letters of matters of business or pending litigation.
We can talk tomorrow.
Thank you.
motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second, third?
Anyone? All in favor? Opposed?
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.